It's Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, the Why Do Pets Matter podcast, and of course, this wonderful community, the MAAP community that talks about and works through issues you might have in making a plan for the long-term or short-term care of your pets. And tonight, after I check in with everyone, I want to share with you the networking abilities of people, because there was a colleague of mine who took a dog in whose owner did make a plan. They did, let me pull this up because I don't need it. There we go. Who did make a plan for their pet, but unfortunately, the three people who she had put in place could not take the dog. And so I know that's often some of our fears, is that the person who you've appointed can't take the dog, or can't take the dog and help you find someone. So it turns out that my friend actually went to, I believe it was a family member who was struggling keeping the dog, and said, listen, I will take it and I'll find it a good home. And she wasn't in any of the paperwork of the woman who passed away. However, she stepped up and helped. That's why we really need to check in with everybody. You know, yes, publish it. And yes, my friend in England, who is a wonderful psychologist, said to me, you need to put an S at the end of MAPS. And I go, why? And she said, because they have to check in and see if everyone is still able to take care of their pets every year. So schedule a review every year. I know it seems like it's tedious, but it really isn't. Being able to stay in touch with the people who you've entrusted with the care of your pets, making sure they still can take care of your pets, is absolutely key. So here I am. I'm in some part of Florida. I have no idea. I know I'm an hour and a half from Orlando. So I'm north. I think I might be in some sort of Jacksonville or something. I'm in a rest stop. So I'm sure everybody who's driving by is wondering, what is this crazy woman doing with lights in her car? But I would not miss this MAP call at all. It's been an uneventful, yay, thank you, drive here. I will not reveal the temperature, but as you can see, I have short sleeves on. So now I know. All of my peeps from up north are cold as heck. And my husband, Jim, told me I got to get home before Sunday, because we're expecting some weather into North Carolina on Sunday, which will then go to my peeps in the Northeast Sunday, Monday. I apologize. But I'm so glad you're all here. There is nothing that would keep me from doing this every single Wednesday, especially when I hear of stories that I have this week that make me understand how important it is for people to really make this plan. There have been 2 or 3 posts by a colleague of mine, Joy Gerlish, that spoke about nurses who actually went to shelters to adopt dogs that had been dropped off at the shelter by the family of someone who had been admitted to the hospital because they couldn't take care of the dog. And some of these nurses, they're wonderful. And not every nurse should do this. So don't think I'm thinking, oh yeah, every nurse should do this. No, this is what people will do to help people recover. They will go to the shelter, adopt the dog, and then give the dog back to the patient after they have sufficiently recovered. And then I just got through talking at the beginning, but it's worth repeating. A person had a plan for her pets. The 3 people she had appointed could not take the pets when she needed them to because she passed away. And so a 4th person out of the clear blue came to a family member and said, I'm happy to take the dog and place it. He actually was in a dog show over the weekend and did pretty well. And he'd never been in a dog show before. So those, stackings that we do when they're itty bitty babies never rubs off. They figure out how to do it. But it is key. I talk about making a plan all the time. I talk about putting down the needs of the pet all the time. I talk about appointing caregivers all the time. But really, the most important piece of it is to publish it and check in with everyone every 6 months, every year, because things happen. I mean, I'm living in a house right now that if someone who had one of my dogs, right? If someone had one, I'm going to get to in a minute. If someone had, one of my dogs and I had to take it back, I would be hard pressed. I'd be breaking the rules of my rental. So you really need to check in. I am sure I would move heaven and earth and I would find a way to take those dogs. I have been blessed that the one girl who is a reprobate is now still living with Sally and Gordon, even though she was supposed to come home in October. I've been blessed that they have kept her, and I think that she isn't minding at all. And of course, Junie went from pillar to post, but I always knew where he was. And then I was able, thankfully, to talk our landlord into letting us have Junie come in December. So now he's home for good, except for maybe a 2-week stint while I first start recovery from my knee replacement, which is January 28th, which gives me enough time to have the MAAP plan call on the 26th, and then the MAAP plan call, I think it's like February 1st or 2nd, whatever that Wednesday is. So I will be there. I may be awfully funny on the MAAP call the first Wednesday in February. However, fun is fun. So before I, run into running out of time, which I usually do, let me check in. Sally, how are the girls? I know that it has been incredibly, incredibly cold where you are.
Well, we've gone from 15,000 steps a day to 300 steps a day.
And that is the go out, pee, turn around, come right back in.
Yeah, it's like fortunately, I did shovel on the one warm day. So we have grass paths all over the entire yard, which all the dogs in the neighborhood have found out. But it's like,
they don't have as considerate parents as Athena and Roxy do. So they'll just come to your house.
They come to our house. That's fine. They can come to our house, but it's way too risky. And tomorrow we're supposed to hit
for 30 minutes.
36 degrees. So that's
a relative heat wave.
Yeah, a heat wave. And then, the weather you were talking about, unfortunately, that does not look good for us Sunday night into Monday. So yeah. I'll just keep shoveling those grass paths. But the girls are great. They're just fabulous. My husband just created a huge dinner for them, and I think he's sound asleep now. It's almost 6:30.
Yeah, well, it takes a lot of effort to be the culinary chef for those girls. I have to say, I had to get all of Junie's food together before I left because Jim is actually on deck with Junie. It's a boys' weekend, and we'll see if they survive. He's already hit the car of somebody behind us. So that was his first tragedy while I was gone. He backed out without paying attention, hit the car behind him, and it happens that Junie was in the car. So I'm wondering what Junie thought, so thankfully nobody was injured. The cars have very little damage and, we'll be taking care of it. But, I'm not there and the boys are out of sorts. So you have to think about that. But Gordon, he's still recovering from his illness, so we need him to get a lot of sleep.
And last night I said, "Aren't you going to go to bed?" He goes, I just have to work on Roxy's quilt a little bit longer. I'm making her a flannel quilt and I just have to do a little more." So I said, "You should go downtown and teach quilting, for heaven's sake."
I love it. I love it. Roxy has her own quilt. I can't wait. She has
her own quilt. It's finished. She's snuggled in, so they each have their own quilt. Oh, well, then
you'll have to show us or send pictures so I can share with everyone.
Okay.
Because it's funny that Gordon and you have taken on Roxy as one of your own, and I'm, of course, thrilled. But these are the kind of things you have to build relationships with so that these can occur if something happens and you can't take your dog back. You really have to maintain relationship. You have to be transparent. And although I'm missing Roxy immeasurably, Roxy is missing me about as much as she would a sore tooth. So I'm sure of that. She would say hello to me if she saw me. And maybe she'd run to the truck, but I think that would be it. So I so appreciate everything that you guys have done for Athena and for Roxy. It's so important when you make this plan to maintain conversation, to keep pictures together. Hi, Kieran, how are you? And so Susan, what's up with you and Maggie? There was actually, before you answer, there's actually a program last night on with Marty Greer, where she talked about medication in dogs, where she said sometimes it really is helpful to get over that hump, to provide medication. You might reach out to Marty Greer. She's a veterinarian. I'm not going to see her at this program in Orlando, where I'm headed. I am staying in my hotel room the entire time, except for the 30 minutes. Don't even talk to me about it. 30 minutes I'm going to speak, and then I'm driving 10 hours home. But I just didn't want to leave them high and dry without, it's funny how we don't think about the entire picture. So when it was accepted in early December, Omicron was not even, I think, part of our conversation, or if it was just beginning. And now it's a big part of our conversation, and Florida is one of the hot spots. So would I have come here had I not said I would speak? No, I wouldn't. But now I'm going to come back. And one of my colleagues who's going to the conference with me said, well, the good news is that if you get COVID, you'll be over it before your surgery on the 28th. I said, thank you. That's very settling.
It's so comforting. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No, Maggie's going to be groomed on Monday, and the vet's going to give her the trazodone to see how she gets through the grooming with just the trazodone.
Oh, good. So it's going to be at the vet's office because your groomer is at the vet's office?
Yeah, I did it that way last time too. And I don't think it would be fair to bring her to anybody but people who are really equipped to handle working with Maggie. And it's just so unsettling for me to have this situation, because the dog that I lost in June of 19 was nothing like this. And
so sweet. Yeah, not at all like this. Right.
Right. And I mean, I was devastated when we lost that dog, and we couldn't, that's kind of why we got Maggie so quickly. I don't think I was thinking too clearly, but
well, you know what? I think you're doing the best you can right now. I think that many unfortunate situations arose when you got Maggie.
No, absolutely.
First you got her, and then COVID. So there have been a lot of things that have exacerbated any naughtiness that
no, and I
from
shouldn't,
Maggie.
No, and I you're absolutely right. I shouldn't put it all on Maggie, but and plus my husband's illness, whatever it is, started at the same time. So
so it's a
hard
combination of everything.
Yeah.
And she's given you a lot of love and comfort aside from her naughty. And now that everything is maybe getting a little bit better, it's time to address the naughty. And as Marty said yesterday, she said she definitely thinks that if a dog is having a really rough time, and people are having a really rough time with the dog, starting off with a little medication to try to break the cycle isn't such a bad thing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, because her worst behavior is when the three of us are in the family room, and if she's alone with me or she's alone with my son, if things are quiet, she's really a wonderful dog. So things do seem.
So what I think you're saying is that she's a really reactive dog. And
yes,
so if
exactly.
everybody is together and talking and laughing or whatever.
Absolutely. If I get up
really
and put
reactive.
my shoes on or whatever it is, she's barking, she's biting, she's everything she reacts to. So, yeah.
So this program last night had another suggestion, which was, I don't know if you've ever bought her any Kongs to chew on. and put food in them. I know she's heavy, but if you only gave her that for a day to chew on,
Yeah,
you
no,
put her chow in the Kong.
she has another toy that has, food in it, and Tom's not
So
real
it's a
good.
puzzle.
Yeah, just
Is
trying
it
to keep her, interested and cognitively stimulated, so.
Right. Sometimes that's the best thing is to, put her Kong in her crate and give her a timeout with a cover over her. And that might give you a break when all of you are sitting together. So she's
Yeah.
not so reactive and that, you guys get a break as well. Plus, Marty had a great program, as I said last night, Marty Greer. And she did say that if the dog is having a lot of issues, which a lot of them are now because of COVID, that, the medication has helped bridge that gap so until you get to a place where the reactivity might lessen. So
Right.
I'm so good. So I know you've been very overwhelmed, but you do still have your note up on the refrigerator with somebody's telephone number?
Oh, yes, of Stephanie's phone number, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And you've called Stephanie to see where she is. That's the breeder, right?
Yeah, I need to call her again. Last time I spoke with her, she was dealing with having to sell her home, and her husband was having some
Yeah,
health
so you
issues.
need to check in because
Right.
remember what I started this program today with is that somebody did have a plan. 3 people were in place and none of them could take her dogs, and
Right.
someone else stepped up. So when you go, I would suggest when you go to get Maggie's grooming, see if there's anyone that they can recommend who you can bring in to meet Maggie, who could be a surrogate person if you need them. Because
Good.
I've been here in North Carolina, and I have to tell you my experiences with my veterinarians in North Carolina, really interesting. But at each place I went, I asked them for recommendations for dog walkers, caretakers, whatever. They've all given me 2 or 3 names. And I called and interviewed a bunch of them. Because if you get the name from the veterinarian, 9 times out of 10, they're pretty responsible people.
Yeah, no,
there's
that's,
also different rover.com and things, but I like to be local, because then, the ramification of them doing something not so good will come back to you. So you'll hear about it. So you might ask when you're there if they know of anyone who likes to work with naughty puppies.
yeah, it's really hard with COVID because you don't even go into the vet's office anymore.
No,
Yeah,
I know.
and so
Well,
people
it's
don't chat.
interesting in Virginia, that's true, but North Carolina, not so much. We go into the vet's office.
Do you really? Yeah, it's hard to, establish a relationship when you're kind of wearing a mask and you're, just meeting them outside, and it's
So just think
bit...
of all these things, Susan, that you've had to navigate with Maggie that you didn't have to navigate with your first dog.
Yeah, no, and it's a good suggestion. I will, and something I had actually thought of, but haven't acted on
ask
yet,
them,
so,
say, do you have anybody who, you can recommend to if I have to go away, or if I need somebody to come in and help me with Maggie, is there anybody you could recommend? And then you could talk to them.
they
More
do
of that
have
is
boarding
coming
there,
online now.
so they do board dogs there, so that's always an
Right, but I
option.
don't know that Maggie is a good candidate for boarding or is a better candidate for somebody coming in, and you never know. So just, check it out. It's always a good ace in the hole, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. I was worried about whether she could be boarded or not. They might say,
Right.
no, we can't take her because she's too unsettled or
Reactive.
whatever.
Yeah. So you might as well try to see if you can find somebody who's game.
Yeah.
Kieran, how's everything in Tenerife?
Hi, Debbie.
Uh-oh.
Hi, Connie. How's everyone?
Hi, Kieran.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Hi, Susan.
You're sort of wondering where I am, right, Connie? You weren't here for the beginning. I'm in a rest stop in Florida.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm driving to Orlando to give a program, which I would have refused except for the fact that I'm sure they would be very angry if I called and didn't say I was sick and I wasn't coming. So I drove. It was a nice drive. But Kieran, what's up in Tenerife? Everything good?
Everything going nicely. Everything good. Sure, slowly and surely.
Good.
So, no news to announce just yet, but hopefully next week we might have something. So it is moving.
We're
Everything
so
is.
glad you're here
Yeah.
because you're our wonderful guy who we are just living in anticipation of all the news that's going to come. So we're so glad you're here. Connie, what's up with the Wheatons? I know you have a lot to announce because now you have a champion, Casey.
Yes, I do.
Ooh.
Last week, my absence was due to the fact that I was out in the Palm Springs area at 4 huge days of dog shows. The first 2 days, Desert Empire Terrier Club of Southern California, which are, as advertised, all terrier specialties. And I am actually a member, even though I live 2.5 hours away and by the ocean. But the club is terrific. It's fantastic. And then the second 2 days were the All Breed Kennel Club of Palm Springs. And my boy just needed 1 3-point major to finish his championship. And not only did he do that, but the very first day out of the gate on Thursday, I went down on Tuesday, bathed and groomed him at my best friend's house with whom I was staying. And she's a Wheaton breeder and a member of our national board along with me. Deborah knows her. And then Wednesday, we were helping the local clubs set up on the showgrounds and getting our set up space under the reserve grooming tent and so on and so forth. Thursday, it was showtime. And my boy not only got the major, he got a 5-point major, which is as many points as you can get in one fell swoop. He won out of the bred by exhibitor class, which is a big deal. And I was up against, just about all the big professional handlers on the West Coast in the winner's dog competition. And then he went best of winners, which for the Undog Show initiated means that the winner's dog, who beats all the class dog winners, and the winner's bitch, who beats all the bitch class winners, go against each other in the best of breed competition. And Casey came out best of winners, which is the winner of that little duo. And not only that, but the icing on the cake was that Mom here went best owner handler in breed. And my competition again was extraordinary. Wheaton breeder judge from Northern California came in second, and another fellow national board member and friend of mine came in third. So, and yet on Sunday, he also has Great Danes, strange combination, Wheatons and Great Danes, but his Great Dane won best of breed out of the classes. And it was a huge entry for Danes. So my friend Neil is a wonderful handler. So I was over the moon. So yes, my boy Casey is now a champion. We're taking a break for a while because of COVID. The Palm Springs shows were all outside at the gorgeous Empire Polo Club, which was founded by the likes of Gary Cooper, Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and assorted other Hollywood stars in the 30s who wanted to go down to the desert and play polo on their ponies. It is a magnificent venue, and usually the West Coast warm-up act for Westminster, which of course has been canceled this year. So there were 3,700 dogs entered last weekend, which is monstrous. But we are, as I speak, the bad news is that COVID has hit the Golden State very, very, very hard. Los Angeles County, I was reading on my cell phone in my email, Los Angeles County is now well over 45,000 new cases every day, and the hospitalizations are now starting to go up. We're seeing all the lag from the Pasadena Rose Parade and the Rose Bowl, where most of the people were sitting literally cheek by jowl unmasked in a stadium that holds 100,000
I
people.
know, I was amazed because we always watch the Rose Bowl and no one had masks on.
we locals were really shocked. And the Rose Bowl is actually the home field of UCLA, of which I am an alumna, so I know it intimately. And you really are. You are shoulder to shoulder, and of course, everybody's yelling and screaming for their team and blah blah blah. And I am sure that the cases are just exponential in both Utah and Ohio, the two teams that played in the Rose Bowl, Ohio State.
I know. It really is scary. And I have to tell you, at the beginning of this call, which Rose may or may not cut out because we were early, I'm heading to Orlando, which has another spike as well. Although I think it's less than California because it's been left to rack and ruin. So everybody's getting it. So it's all about the same.
Right.
But I couldn't pull out of speaking at this event. However, I am double masking. I have I'll show you. I have my K95 here. See, this is me. This is what I'll do. But then my friend Carolyn McAteer gave me this lovely mask, which has dogs on it. I don't know if you can see it, but that will be my over mask. I don't have to have it in the car, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm really going to be a little less social than I usually am. And it's been such a week for me because so many people have been getting in touch with me regarding making plans for their pets. I'm sorry they're not here. I often wonder if 6:30 on a Wednesday night works, but it works for us. And we'll have to see if I add a time or do something else, but I'm not going to change this time because it works for us and we're a cohesive group. And it really is important for everyone to feel as if there's someone there helping them through this period. I mean, we've been together with each other since the beginning, since before COVID began, and through COVID. So we've all mastered what we need to do to keep our pets safe, what we need to do to keep ourselves safe, and talking to other people. So I'm just looking forward to more people thinking about this. There was an article I spoke about before, but there have been two other articles, and I'm going to start writing a blog about these articles, probably once I have my knee done, because I'll be laying there doing nothing. I think I'm going to start writing articles on articles, because there have been many studies now that show that patients either check themselves out of hospitals or they don't go into the hospital because they don't have care for their pets. And I know Kieran knows about this because that's part of the work that he does as well. So I'm going to work. I've reached out to the University of Michigan, which was the group that published the article on their studies, which showed people either check out or don't go to the hospital if they have pets and they have no care for them. And they were really intrigued with what I do. So I'm hoping to get that up and running this year as well, because it is about us making a plan for our pets, but it's also how do we connect people with people who can care for their dogs short-term, long-term. The article I think I published on Facebook and LinkedIn showed that a nurse went and adopted a dog from a shelter that had been dropped off by one of her patients because they were going to be in the hospital for a significant period of time. And then she returned the dog to the patient when they were out. Now that is an angel from heaven. We can work with rescues or shelters or even fosters as being those people, those interim people we can get in touch with. We just all have to work together. So that's my mission for 2022, is to work with everyone in the areas who are doing this to do short-term, long-term care. And maybe we can have some of those senior dogs go to senior people so that they find homes as well, because so many senior dogs don't get out of shelters because they are senior dogs, where they would be perfect dogs for senior people if we could have the backup that would take care of the pets in the event something happened to them.
In fact, Deborah, what you're saying is absolutely right on. I had a whole bunch of maintenance people of different stripes traipsing through and around the house today, and one of them was just my normal heating and air conditioning maintenance guy who comes twice a year. And this young man is absolutely lovely. And his mother is major league. She runs a dog rescue group. And they go into the city and county shelters in Southern California. And of course, he saw my two crazy dogs, and we started talking dogs. And he said that his mother and her team are absolutely at wit's end because the shelters are filling up again. And it's all because of the Omicron variant. And people don't have plans. And people are getting sick.
And no plan, right?
That's exactly right.
It's frustrating because we can work through it if we all understand we have to plan for it. Not that oh my God, I need it today. No, we have to plan for it. We have to take the time to look around. We did it during COVID. I suggested everyone walk around their neighborhood and speak to the people who have dogs and offer to care for their dogs if they get sick, because then human nature, 90% of the time, I'll take care of your dog if you get sick too. So you get that ability to find someone, because you just don't know. And if we don't ask, we'll never know. So my mission is to get in touch with people who do this and see how we can navigate and bring in people who are unlikely fosters to be fosters for people for short or long term, because it doesn't mean you have to keep the dog for the duration of its life. It simply means that you are going to hold the dog, and if placement is the best next step, great. And if giving it back to the person when they come out of the hospital is possible, great. But it's two things that I think are being overlooked. One is it gives people purpose, right? They are taking care of a dog for someone who they care about, a neighbor or something. It might give them income, right? Because they might foster and they might get $5 a day or $30 a week or whatever for fostering the dog. They might do it for nothing. But even if they were doing it for nothing, maybe you make a donation to the shelter. And so that's money coming into the shelter for a great purpose. So I'm working on this. Any of you who have any ideas that would, help me with this, please don't hesitate to write it down. I know I'm at the end of my time, as I always am, because we just have such rich conversations here. But I just hope that we together can grow this group to bring fosters in, to bring shelters in. So instead of wringing our hands because the dogs are being dropped off due to COVID, due to Omicron, due to going back to work, that we actually think about solutions for either keeping pets with people or having them find their next forever home, because we're doing some of our homework before they get there. Which is, of course, what I always do. I always tell everybody, do the homework before you need it. Make the plan before you need it. And don't just put it in your will, because I don't want you to die. I want you to live a long and happy life. But if something happens, I want your dog to go safely to point B. And then if you can take them back, then they're taken back. But if you can't, then they go to point C, which is what you plan to do with your pets anyway. And if it's just in a discussion over a glass of wine, not as enforceable as if you actually write it down and have a conscious conversation and record that conversation in a conscious contract. So I'm just so grateful you guys are here. Hey, Sally, stay warm. It's only about 7 degrees where Sally is, Connie.
Oh, goodness.
I have been,
little
well,
cold.
yes, I saw that it was about 4 degrees in Chicago the other day. We're in the 60s, just to make you feel good.
No, that doesn't make her feel good. I wouldn't tell her what it was here in Florida.
Well, and in fact, my friend Neil with the Wheatons and the Great Danes had to drive home from this beautiful venue, and he came out to give an educational talk because he's our board liaison with our health education committee. He gave a wonderful talk on Friday as an educational seminar, but he came from ice and snow in Des Moines.
Oh, boy.
And he was out for, 5 days in 70 some odd degree weather in the desert, which is warmer than where I am by about 10 or 20 degrees all year. And then he had to turn right around Sunday night and drive home back to Des Moines, where it is absolutely.
Hopefully the the roads were good because I know that after the new year, my sister luckily left Florida on New Year's Eve and got home on New Year's Day because Sunday, the day after New Year's Day, they had a pileup on the roads in Virginia, right, Susan?
Right,
And people were on
I-95,
the roads
Definitely.
for 12 to
I-95.
18 hours.
right.
And what do you
Senator-
do with your pets when that happens?
Exactly. There were people with little kids, you know,
Yep,
four in the car.
so-
And Senator Tim Kaine of Virginia was stuck for 26 hours
he
trying to
was.
get back to DC.
Yeah.
Yep, right. So there you go. You have your human kids that you better have planned for. Some people had no food. And you had your four-legged friends maybe in the car with you. So that finishes two of the D's, delay and disaster, right?
Right.
I mean, here you are. You're being delayed to get home to them. And will the people who are caring for them be able to get to them with the snow? Or you're in the middle of a disaster with them. And do you have water for them? Do you have some food for yourself and for them? So as we sign off, tell me what you're going to do this week with your pets. And Kieran, you're going to tell me what you're going to do just generally. So I'm going to start from the end. So Connie, tell me what's up for you and the kids this week.
Well, we're cooling our heels after, you know, the big week in Palm Springs last week, and Mama Patsy was boarded at the vet. I picked her up first thing Monday morning. So we're just kind of digging things out and getting things back to normal. But for instance, there's a dog show up in Ventura at the end of the month. The entries closed at noon today, and a lot of us are not going. Just because of the surge of Omicron. And the director of the LA County Department of Public Health, who is wonderful, said last night on the news, avoid all non-essential activities, especially those indoors. Go to work, go to school, that's it. And this show is at an indoor fairground, the Ventura County Fairgrounds. So I immediately looked at that and said, no. And in fact, the Kennel Club of Beverly Hills, which is 5 days of shows at the very beginning of March at the LA County Fairplex in Pomona, and is always televised on NBC, I'm expecting that's going to be canceled. I mean, so far everybody's saying, oh, it's a go, oh, it's a go. I'm thinking that because it's a county facility, that the plug will be pulled. So
is that totally indoor, or is that some outdoor as well, or is it is just all like Quonset huts? Can they open the doors?
It is totally indoor. Maybe maybe some obedience and rally are outside, but even agility is in another building. So and it's indoors. So it is huge, and with a gazillion people and dogs, and it would not be a safe environment.
You know, you have to be careful, because if you get sick, what happens to your dog? So that's why we're here every Wednesday talking about, you know, it's not just about you. So Susan, what are you going to do with Maggie this week? You're getting her groomed.
Yeah, so I'm getting her groomed. She's going to be given the trazodone. I'll probably take home some trazodone after she's finished, if she can get through without being sedated. I don't know if it's going to work out or not, but they're willing to give it a try. You know, I want to just get more comfortable with Maggie, and I am getting more comfortable with Maggie. She's bonding more with us, especially me, and she's not biting nearly as much, and we're just enjoying her company a little more than we had been. So
Excuse me, just a second. Turn the
Well, that's always a plus. Thank God.
yeah, and congratulations
Kieran,
to
what about
Connie.
you, hon?
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. That was quite an accomplishment. Yes.
Turn the oven off,
Yeah.
So Kieran, what are you doing this week? No dogs, I know, because your dog went away.
It's good. For a while. What are we doing? I've sent you something in the email, Debbie. I don't know if you had a chance to see it this evening. Did you?
No, I was driving since 8 o'clock this morning.
Okay, right.
Ay.
I've been driving since 10 after 8 this morning. And I have about another hour before I lay my head down, and I'm good. It probably because of all the Starbucks coffee that I've been drinking. So,
Oh dear, oh dear. Anyway,
but I will look for it when I get there because I will be all alone.
okay, well, very, very simply, it's we've sort of taken the MAAP plan out of the book and made a sort of a little leaflet with it, and it has
Wow, good.
it's sort of its own cover, and then so that's page 1, 2 with the form. So if you like, the chapter plus the form, and then after that we have a little introduction to the book, and the idea really is to make that freely available to all of the shelters in Ireland and the SPCAs, and perhaps they might find it very easy just to send that out completely free, and hopefully there'll be a bit more take up. So if you get a chance to have a look at it,
And
you're
tell
happy
them
with it.
I will, and tell them if they want me to give a talk that people at shelters want to join. If somebody wants to host, I'm happy to do it.
Will do. That's a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm happy to do it. So Sally, what are you and the girls doing? Your balmy weather, right?
Yeah, but other than the girls, an interesting thing happened on the block. There are the girls, the two big girls and me, and then we have two greyhounds, and the greyhounds unfortunately had a medical emergency and went to their regular vet. And the vet did not have the MRI facilities and said, you must go to this emergency shelter. And of course, it's 10:30 Sunday night. So they drove to the shelter, which was 1.5 hours away. They got there and the shelter said, oh, we don't have any of these MRI. We have nothing. And so there they are. And this is the one their vet had recommended an hour and a half later. And then they were able to go online, find another one, go there, which was outstanding. But I think, and they said, didn't you look at the website and see that we were closed and we don't have those facilities? And I go, and there they are under a medical emergency with the greyhound in the back of the vehicle. And I'm like, this is just, what's wrong? It's all communication, clear communication, writing it down, making sure everything is as you wish it would be. And as you know, with me, when we had a medical emergency, all 3 of my people were not available. And so for us, it'll just, I think we'll be snuggled in. Tomorrow at 40 degrees, we'll go for a long walk, and then I think we'll be snuggled in again. But we're having a great time and running around. But I think it's so important, Deborah, write everything down, make a plan, and follow up. And make sure before you get in the car and drive an hour and a half that
I'm so glad you said that, because when Junie had his teeth done, I had a question and I called that night to talk to the vet. And I knew they were closed, but I texted them on the text line that they sent me all the updates on his kennel. And I called and left a message, and nobody called me back till Monday. So of course I called Ren. And I called, Dr. Surgeon, who's the dental vet in New Rochelle, and asked them the question, and they answered the phone. And when they called back on Monday, they said, but we were closed. And I said, well, how was I to know that? Well, you should have gone online and checked. And I said, well, can I suggest that next time, if you're doing oral surgery on a dog on a Thursday, and you're going to be closed on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you might put that on the bottom of the discharge here, call Dr. Smith if something comes up. And so this is one of my programs that I'm going to put together for the veterinarians. This vet had to be right. She had to tell me that it was my fault that I didn't go online and see that she was closed. And online, I would have found the vet to call if I had an emergency. And I sat there and I said, okay, you're absolutely right. I said, but I'm new. In quotations, I am so new. It was the second time I saw her. And I don't look at websites because for 25 years, my vet doesn't have a website that would do all that. So this is one of those fancy. Well, the vet must have checked to see if this shelter has the MRI, not, and that it would be open, not, and then having them tell you, well, you should have gone on the website and checked. When you're an extremist, when you are emotional, when your animal is ill, or when you have questions about your animal, it is so much easier communication-wise for both the client, pet owner, and the veterinarian to give a little more information than less information. And so when I spoke to the veterinarian, She was very adamant that this was totally my fault, and that I should have just checked the website. And as far as she was concerned, the dental was non-eventful. Now, when somebody calls you and says, I might have to pull 2 teeth out, to me, that's not non-eventful, that's eventful. And I actually just wanted to know what I should do to, soothe his gums, do the best I could to keep the teeth in place, what I should do. And it goes to communication. You're absolutely right. And so while we make our plans and we appoint caregivers, we have to communicate the needs of our pets. We have to communicate with everyone who touches our pets so they know what we want. It is key. And in the flip side, what I'm doing here in Orlando is I'm talking to people in the veterinary sphere about how to talk to clients in a way that is going to allow them to feel as if they're heard, respected, and understood. So I'll let you know next week how that goes for me. But until then, this is Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton Law and Mediation, which will be changing in the next few months. Stay tuned. The Why Do Pets Matter podcast, not changing. And of course, my wonderful MAAP community. You guys take good care. I love you all. Kiss your dogs for me. And until next week, bye now.